Good afternoon. I'm extraordinarily pleased to be here at the San Ysidro Port of Entry. This, I believe, is my third time to this port in my history with the Department of Homeland Security, and of course, my first time as a Secretary of Homeland Security. I came here to meet the extraordinary workforce of the U.S. Customs and Border Protection, field operations, Border Patrol, air and marine personnel, to learn about the things they need to address the challenges that we face in the port of entry, in between the ports of entry, and for me, especially, to thank them and commend them for their heroic work in the service of our noble mission. I also came here to spend some time with Mayor Todd Gloria of San Diego, who is an extraordinary partner in the service of what this port of entry represents. It represents opportunity and prosperity for people on both sides of the border. A port of entry really serves as an economic engine of trade and travel. And working with Mayor Gloria, we were very proud to be able to lift the travel restrictions that limited the number of people and the nature of the traffic that came through the port of entry to, of course, only essential travel. We lifted the Title 19 restrictions only a short while ago, and already, as you can see, the amount of traffic, the number of people that are communicating and commuting through the port has reached the levels that preceded the imposition of Title 19 as a result of the pandemic that has caused so much pain and so much disruption, not only here, not only across our country, but across the entire world. I do want to be very, very clear, because there has been misinformation with respect to what travelers need to be equipped with in order to be able to travel through the port of entry and conduct their business. Non-essential travelers must be prepared to attest to their vaccination and must be able to present proof of vaccination to our federal officials. That is in existence now. Beginning on January 22nd of 2022, essential travelers will need to be able to do the very same. This is all part of ensuring the safety and security of the travelers themselves, of our heroic personnel, and of the American public and the communities on both sides of the border. We're extraordinarily excited about the fact that we are seeing our economic prosperity return in full force, and we are working under the President's leadership to put the pandemic behind us once and for all, and we can do so through partnership and through commitment. And I want to once again applaud the tremendous partnership of Mayor Todd Gloria, and allow him, of course, the opportunity to address you directly. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. On behalf of the City of San Diego and our more than 1.4 million residents, let me extend a warm welcome to you, sir. We are certainly glad to have you and your team in our great city. I also personally want to thank you and President Biden, as well as the entire Department of Homeland Security, for always having an open line of communication with me and with my administration. As the Secretary mentioned, we've been able to work closely together to reopen our ports of entry to non-essential travelers, ensuring that our region's quality of life and our economy can begin to heal after the residual impacts of the pandemic. As America's largest border city, as well as home to its busiest land port of entry, we have a responsibility to act as a region that show how a community can operate when it embraces its binational identity. As you heard the Secretary mention, many people commute back and forth at this border. They do it for work. They do it to see their loved ones on either side of the border. We like to say here in San Diego, we may be two nations separated by a land border, but we are truly one community. I know our Secretary understands that. And that's why we work so hard together to push for the reopening of our border to non-essential travel. And I want to be clear to all the members of the media and to those who may not be fortunate enough to live in our border region. The reopening of our border to non-essential travel wasn't more than just about bringing back our economy or supporting local businesses, as important as both of those things are. This was about people. This was about San Diegans being able to get together with their families and their loved ones, be able to make our region whole again. And Mr. Secretary, I thank you so much for your continued diligence on this issue, as well as the resulting concerns that we have around border wait times. We recognize with the increased flow to the San Diego brings other challenges, and I know the Department of Homeland Security is tracking this closely and working closely with all of us in the border region to address it aggressively. I also wanted to share that I look forward to working closely with the Secretary and the Department on making sure that we can maintain our timelines for opening an additional port of entry at Otay Mesa East. San Diegans well know that we have long been planning for the third port of entry in our community. This will do a tremendous amount to make crossing the border more predictable from a time perspective, as well as boost our local economy. Working with the California Department of Transportation, as SANDAG, other regional leaders, we are excited about the potential of reopening this facility in 2024, and we'll work closely with the Secretary and the Biden administration, as well as our leaders in Congress, particularly Senators Padilla and Feinstein, as well as our House delegation, to make sure that we can further cut down border wait times, reducing vehicle emissions and thereby improving air quality in San Diego. Last thing I just want to say while I have this opportunity, and thank you for creating this opportunity, Mr. Secretary, is to amplify the words of our Secretary a moment ago with regard to defeating COVID-19 and vaccinations. I want to applaud San Diegans as well as residents of Tijuana for stepping up and getting vaccinated. With more than 75% of San Diegans being fully vaccinated and more than 85% of eligible San Diegans having received at least one shot, this is a statistic that San Diegans can be proud of, and a large reason why we've seen our economy reopen and things like the border reopen for non-essential travel. I think it speaks well of our community and how much we concern ourselves with the well-being of our loved ones and of each other. And I want to ask San Diegans who may not yet have taken the opportunity to get vaccinated to do so, and to do so quickly. It is critical for us to continue our rebounding economy and to continue to do the work of putting the pandemic behind us. Reminder, boosters are available, and this is a good time to do that, particularly before the holiday season. In closing, I want to thank the Secretary for again coming to San Diego. We've had opportunities to communicate over the many months that he's been now Secretary. He's always had an open door. He's always returned my phone call. And when I asked him to come here, he listened and he's done it. Mr. Secretary, I thank you for your partnership and look forward to many years of working together for the betterment of both communities on both sides of the border. With that, I'll turn it back to you, Mr. Secretary.
Thank you very much, Mayor. We'll open it up to questions. Yes, sir. Sorry, if you can start over, I apologize. I think we are in the study phase with respect to the variant to understand the vaccine's efficacy with respect to the variant, to understand the severity of the variant that is still under study, and I will defer to the medical experts to speak further about that.
In that context, I want to ask you specifically about the number of eligible nationalities. It's hoping to fall in the Western Hemisphere, except Mexicans, of course. And under President Trump, it was predominantly Hispanic-speaking countries. Why? What was your thinking in expanding? I'm thinking implications and resorting to what you're thinking of expanding.
So let me, if I can, speak to that. I think it's a very important subject. We're of course here to speak about what this port of entry and its reopening means to the economic prosperity. It's an economic engine not only for San Diego, but quite frankly the broader community. The President made a campaign promise to end the migrant protection protocols. He kept true to that campaign promise. Under a memo that I issued, I rescinded the program. That rescission memo was contested in a court of law, and a court issued an order that we are obligated to implement the MPP program. We respectfully disagreed with the court's interpretation of the law. We've appealed that determination, and I have issued a second memo in which I have set forth my reasoning why the MPP program indeed should be terminated and does not reflect our values as our country, nor our operational requirements in respecting the dignity of individuals and their well-being. Nevertheless, we are required to adhere to the court's order under the rule of law, and we are re-implementing MPP as we are required to do so until a court determines otherwise.
Sal Rivera. Go ahead.
The border will magically open and you will allow them inside the U.S. There's also dozens and dozens of people showing up at cities like Tijuana on a daily basis. What do you tell those folks? How do you not dash their hopes, but give them some sort of positive thinking that they may actually get into the U.S. at some point?
So forgive me. I'm not familiar with the claims of the individuals to whom you refer with respect to their ability under the law to enter the United States. Are these individuals who are non-essential travelers? Are they individuals who have claims for humanitarian relief? What is the basis of their desire to come into the United States? What is their basis under law to enter the United States? I'm sorry, if you could be a bit more specific with your question.
Is there a plan to bring not just MPP people, but all those immigrants, migrants who want asylum, who want some hope in the U.S.?
Well, sir, we are not yet in a position where we have put, as a nation, the pandemic entirely behind us. And the Centers for Disease Control is authorized under the laws of the United States, under Title 42, to issue certain requirements to protect the migrant population, to protect our workforce, and to protect the communities and the American public. And the CDC, the Centers for Disease Control, has made a determination that the public health imperative requires the exercise of that Title 42 authority to expel individuals because we are still in the midst of the pandemic, albeit having made progress, but not sufficient progress not to exercise the CDC's Title 42 authority. When we have the pandemic behind us, when the public health imperative no longer requires the exercise of that authority, we will not use that authority to expel individuals.
Secretary, thanks for being here. One of the other ways that we have a lot of commerce, both for traffic, commercial, and passenger, is through airplanes. I'm a private pilot myself. We're doing a story we've been researching for over a year about that there's no check for southbound airplanes now. These are private general aviation airplanes. There's no customs check on the way out. I've sent 3 different requests to customs for comment. I even talked to Alan Burson, who I know personally, and there's never been a comment about why there's no check on the way out. We've seen evidence of airplanes leaving the border region full of cash and guns and ammo going southbound, and there's no way to check. Mexicans don't have customs until you land at your destination. So I wanted to ask you if there's any plan for that, to close that flow southbound.
I have tremendous respect for Mr. Burson, a former acting commissioner of U.S. Customs and Border Protection, and we are working very closely with our partners in Mexico to address any southbound traffic of illegal firearms or other evidence of criminal activity. And we do indeed interdict southbound traffic that we detect, and we make the apprehensions and the seizures that the law authorizes us to do so. That is a partnership that is only growing in strength, and I very much appreciate the work of the foreign minister and the law enforcement officers in Mexico and the partnership that we have with them.
Some more questions. One right here.
I'll ask in both languages, as I was told that I can ask him both languages and he'll respond in English. So I want to know if you're going to take advantage of this trip here, this visit to San Diego, if you are also going by any chance to Yuma to address what's going on with the thousands of migrants seeking asylum and what efforts are underway for that. So now in Spanish, quería saber si quiere aprovechar esta visita para viajar a Yuma también acerca de la situación que está pasando con los migrantes buscando el asilo político y cuáles son los esfuerzos.
So let me answer your question, the specific question that you posed, and let me make a very important broader point that the migrants need to hear again and guide their actions accordingly. I am not on this particular trip going to visit Yuma. I will be visiting Yuma and other places in the border very shortly. And that I believe will be perhaps my 6th or 7th or 8th trip to the border during my 10-month tenure as the Secretary of Homeland Security. I cannot communicate this message too strongly, that individuals should not put their life savings in the hands of smuggling organizations that exploit their vulnerability. Individuals should not put their lives in the hands of smuggling organizations because they are not safe. These individuals prey on their vulnerability, and we know all too well what happens on that journey, what can happen on that journey, and in fact, the people who do not make it safely. The border is not open, and there are alternative paths to seek humanitarian relief that exist now and to which we are dedicated to building more of.
Time for one more question.
So going back, I guess, to the first question was going back to Omicron. We see that it's impacted air travel. Is there a potential that there could be another closure at the border for essential travel?
The border of San Ysidro at the port of entry. Through the ports of entry, vehicular and foot traffic is open. We have lifted the Title 19 restrictions. Non-essential travelers must attest to their vaccination and have proof of vaccination. On January 22nd, essential travelers will have to do the same. The port of entry is open to trade and travel. The engine of prosperity is, as you can see, quite busy, and we have no plans to close it at this time. Thank you all so very much, and once again, my thanks to Mayor Todd, Gloria, and I do want to, while I'm here, thank our Deputy Director here in U.S. Customs and Border Protection, and Mayorkas, for her extraordinary leadership of an extraordinary organization. Thank you all so very much. Take care.
I'm sorry. Health, yes.